the notes for section 9.1, you're going to need a ruler, a calculator, and to have your textbooks open to page 525. I went ahead and the whole first page is just vocabulary, so I filled it out and I'm going to read through them with you, and I want you to pause the video when we get to the end so that you can finish filling it out. So, we talked about factoring quadratic functions in the last chapter. And now we're going to move forward and we're going to start talking about how we can graph them and what their graphs look like. And in 9.1, we just learned the different parts of each graph and then how to actually graph them. So a nonlinear function is a function that has a graph that doesn't make a line. A quadratic function is a nonlinear function, so just like above, that can be written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. We saw this form in the last chapter. Those are the trinomials that we were working with. So the standard form of a quadratic function is f of x because it's a function. So instead of y equals or 0 equals, you have f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. A and b are coefficients, so they will be numbers. C is a constant, it is also a number, and then x squared and x are just our variables. A parabola is the shape of the graph of a quadratic function. On the next page of our notes, I draw one out for you, and then we'll start labeling the different pieces of our parabola. And then the axis of symmetry is a central line about which parabolas are symmetric, and a vertex is the point where the axis of symmetry intersects the parabola. So go ahead, pause the video, get all of those written down, and then we will move on to the next page. On the next page, you're going to see that I have drawn in a graph. So I have our y-axis and our x-axis, but notice I didn't put y-axis, I put f of x. That's because instead of y equals, we're dealing with f of x equals. So they are the same thing. The y-axis and the f of x axis are the same thing. Then you're going to notice I have this U-shaped curve drawn in. That's a parabola. Alright, this dotted line that goes straight up and down is the axis of symmetry. And you see how I have a dot down here where that axis of symmetry intersects our parabola? That is our vertex. Okay? So, the parent function, or the most basic function of quadratic functions, is f of x equals x squared. There's nothing being multiplied, there's nothing being added, it's the most basic form of those quadratic functions. Standard form is f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. It's a parabola for a graph. The axis of symmetry, we're going to get an equation, and I'm going to show you how to use it, but they give us x equals negative b over 2a, and you're going to see what that means. And then the y-intercept, so the place where it intercepts the y-axis, is just c, which is this value, okay? Then b and the a also come from this equation. Turn to the next page. Some things that you need to keep in mind when you start graphing these parabolas is that if a is bigger than 0, or if a is positive, it opens up like this. It opens upward and it makes like a bowl. Okay? If it is less than 0 or negative, it opens downward. Okay, so like an upside down bowl. Now notice I have no greater than or equal to's or less than or equal to's. A cannot equal 0. Now the minimum is the lowest point on the graph. So that can only happen if our parabola opens upward, because otherwise we have more than one low point. So when it opens upward, we have a minimum. Okay, and it's also the vertex. Now the maximum is the highest point on the graph. So like here, It's also the vertex. Now, notice, depending on what parabola you have, you will only have a minimum or a maximum. You won't have both because, look here, there is no maximum here because there's always 2 points. Now, down here, there's never a minimum because there's always 2 points. And the arrows indicate that they keep going to infinity. So we can't get a minimum because it just keeps going. So the minimum and maximum values are the vertices. So in order to graph a parabola, you're going to follow these steps. The first thing you're going to do is find the vertex. So using the standard form that they give you, you're going to give you an equation. You're going to find the vertex, and it's going to be negative b over 2a. Okay? After you do that, you're going to have parabola, and then you'll have, well, you won't have your parabola yet, but you'll have your vertex, which is this point, and you automatically know it's just a vertical line that goes through there. And when we draw it in on the graph for our example, that will make a little more sense. So you find the axis of symmetry. Then you're going to make a t-chart. And you're going to choose x values, so left and right values, on both sides of that axis. So say this was on the origin. You could choose -1, -2, -3, +1, +2, +3. And you're going to put them in a t-chart. For that t-chart, the only thing you're going to be missing is you'll have some x values, but you won't have any y values yet. So you're going to take the values from the x side, plug them into the original equation, and what you get out will be your y values, or your f of x values. Then you're going to have ordered pairs, and then you'll graph them, and you'll connect those ordered pairs with that curved line. Okay? So go ahead and turn to the next page and let's try an example of this. So I have y equals 3x squared plus 6x minus 4. That's standard form, right? So the first thing I need to do is find the vertex. Okay? They told me to find the vertex. I should take negative b over 2a. b equals +6, and a equals 3. So negative b is -6 over 2 times a, which is 3. So I get -6 over 6, which is -1. Great, I have this number, but what do I do with it? I'm going to draw in my x and f of x values, or sorry, not values, axes. Okay. So now what do I do at this point? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it back in here to find the ordered pair. So I have, this is my actually an x value, and so I'm going to plug that f of x in. So I'm going to say f of -1 equals 3 times -1 squared plus 6 times -1 minus 4. -1 squared is 1, so I get 3 times 1. 6 times -1 is -6 minus 4, so I get 3 minus 10, which is -7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sorry, I'm at -1, 7. That's my vertex. So I go over 1 and down 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, there's my vertex. Now, second thing it tells me to do, draw in your axis of symmetry, which I know just through that point, I just have to draw a dotted line straight up and down. Okay. Now, let's take a look at A before we go any further. It's positive, so I'm going to have an open bowl, okay? So then the next step is make a t-chart with x values on the left and the right of your axis. So I'm already at -1, so I'm going to go -2 and -3. And I'm not going to start, I'm going to go from left to right. So -3, -2. I've already dealt with -1, so I'm going to write it in there. as -1, -7, and then I'm going to go 0, 1. Okay? So I have 5 points. The middle one is the vertex. So I have -3, start plugging it in. So f of -3 is 3 times -3 squared plus 6 times -3 minus 4. -3 squared is +9. 3 times +9 is 27. Minus 18 minus 4. So I'm left with +5. Let's double check that. 27 minus 18 minus 4 gives me +5. Then I have f of 2, or f of -2. 3 times -2 squared plus 6 times -2 minus 4. I get 3 times 4, which is 12, minus 12 minus 4. So I get -4. And then I have f of 0 equals 3 times 0 squared plus 6 times 0 minus 4, which is just 0 plus 0 minus 4, so -4. And then I have f of 1, 3 times 1 squared plus 6 times 1 minus 4 gives me 3 plus 6 minus 4, which is 5. Now, what do you notice if you look at this t-chart? I have 5, -4, -7, -4, 5. These numbers match up, which should make sense because it's symmetrical. So if I go to -3, 5, then -2, -4, 0, -4, and then 1, 5. If I draw in that curve, I should see that it's symmetrical. Now I stopped at these 2 points, but I shouldn't. I should just keep going up and put arrows at the end. Don't forget to label your points. Okay? And that's how you graph a parabola. That's a little bit rough, but we're going to do it again. So, here's another one. Notice we only have 2 terms. So I'm going to rewrite this as y equals x squared plus 0x plus 3. First thing I'm going to do is find the vertex, which is -b over 2a. So I have -0 over 2 times 1, and I get just 0. Okay, that's my x value. I have to find my y value by plugging it back in, so I'm going to say f of 0 equals 0 squared plus 0 times 0 plus 3. So I get 0 plus 0 plus 3, so 3. So my ordered pair for my vertex is at 0, 3. Now look, a is positive, so I'm going to open upward again. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit further because I know that I'm already starting at 0, 3 and I have to open upwards. So I'm just going to make the axis right on the bottom. And draw this one right down the middle. This is f of x and this is x. So first thing I'm going to do is make a t-chart. And I have to plot the vertex, so I'm at 0, 3. When I draw in my axis of symmetry, it actually just goes right up the f of x axis. Okay, and I'm going to choose x values to the left and the right of that. So I'm going to go with -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. Okay, so then I start plugging them in. So I'm going to say f of -2 equals -2 squared plus 0 times -2 plus 3. So I get +4 plus 0 plus 3, and I get 7. Then I'm going to do f of -1 negative 1 squared plus 0 times negative 1 plus 3. So I get positive 1 plus 0 plus 3, so I get 4. F of 0, we already know, is our vertex, which gave us 3, so we don't have to do that one. Then I have f of positive 1, which gives me 1 squared plus 0 times 1 plus 3. So I get 1 plus 0 plus 3, which gives me 4. That should make sense. Then I'm going to let you guess what should go here. If I have 3, 4, 4, and I have 7 here, 7 will go here. I'm not even going to do it down here. So I have negative 2, 7. So negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Negative 1, 4. Negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my vertex. And then I have 1, 4, and 2, 7. I can draw in my curve. And since these keep going forever, draw those arrows in. Don't forget to label your points. Okay? I want you to go ahead and try that next one on your own. Pause the video, come back when you're ready. First thing I do, find my vertex and axis of symmetry. So I get vertex, which is negative b over 2a. So I get negative 4 over 2 times 2. So negative 4 over positive 4 gives me negative 1. That gives me the x value. I have to plug it back in up here to find my y value. So I'm going to say f of negative 1 gives me 2 times negative 1 squared plus 4 times negative 1 minus 3. So I get 2 times 1 minus 4 minus 3. 2 minus 4 minus 3 gives me negative 5. So my ordered pair for my vertex is negative 1, negative 5. Now, A is positive, so it's going to open upward. And I have to be able to go over 1 and down 5, so I have to leave room for that. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and draw in our axis, or our axis of symmetry. So I have negative 1, negative 5, and it's just a vertical line through that vertex. Okay, then we draw our T-chart. Okay, my vertex is at negative 1, negative 5, and I have to choose x values to the left and to the right of that. So I'm going to go with negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1. Plug them in, so f of negative 3 gives me 2 times negative 3 squared plus 4 times negative 3 minus 3. So I get 2 times 9 minus 12 minus 3. 2 times 9 gives me 18, minus 12, minus 3 gives me 3. Okay, f of negative 2 gives me 2 times negative 2 squared, plus 4 times negative 2, minus 3. So I get 2 times positive 4, minus 8, minus 3. So I get 8 minus 3 gives me negative 3. And since I know I'm at the same place on the other side, I'm going to use the same values. So I have negative 3, 3, negative 2, negative 3, negative 1, 5, or negative 5, and then these should be symmetric, so 0, negative 3, and 1, 3. Go ahead and draw in your curve with arrows. Don't forget to label. Okay, and we're finished. On that last page of the notes, it talks a little bit about how to decide if the parabola opens up or down, like I did before, so that when you draw on your axes, you know what to do. If A is positive, it opens up, so it's like a bowl, and it will have a minimum. Okay? If A is negative, it opens down like an upside down bowl, and it will have a maximum. To find a minimum or maximum value, it's just the y value of the ordered pair of the vertex. Okay? That's the end of the notes. Make sure you ask questions if you have them.